Welcome back. Today we will be discussing 4 different works and how they tell us about the body. The first one is The Body, an Abstract and Actual Rhetorical Concept by Karma R. Chavez. The gist of this one, from what I understood, is that there is sort of through marketing and just in our heads, sort of a default, person. And I want you to think for a second what that would be. If you said a straight white guy, you're probably correct, and this text would agree with you. Now, I play a lot of video games, and I feel like this is very true. That through just centuries of training and sexism, racism, ableism, the default person for most people has become just a white guy, the straight white guy. But it's also interesting how, with that image, who really are these people? I thought it was interesting that the text talked about how, because it's become the default, it's boring and uninteresting. I only know 5 of these guys, and most of them are just going to fall through the crack. The next one is Cheryl Forbes writing The Body. Now, we'll come back to this image a couple times, especially when we talk about habeas corpus. But the gist of what I got from writing The Body is the way we move within a space tells a story. They want to call it a dance. And I think about this image because this is the American version of Sailor Moon and what was meant to be. And even in their magical girl forms, this poor girl is still stuck in a wheelchair. And I have always struggled with that. Is it empowering that she can be anything but is still stuck in the wheelchair? Or is it humiliating? The other talking about, the person that lost their legs made me think of Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump and how he went from this confident person to this sad, drunk man that had to find his new purpose in life as, part of the Bubblegum Company. Now, Selzer's Habeas Corpus was easily my favorite one I read. The thing that clicked for me, made me understand this work, was the effort of Gills and Felix to provide a positive account of the relationship between body effect and capitalist production. Now, take a second and think. Are we not taught from a young age? He's seen as a freak. They try to take away his disability, and when they can't, he is isolated, and he's only seen as useful when his shiny red nose can save the day. Now, to me, habeas corpus was all about pretty much the the opposite of this, where I know this guy and this guy, but this is Deborah Wilson, and she used to be on Mad TV, and now she does a bunch of video games, and I think it's cool when you see her pop up in games. Although, on the opposite hand, I have seen quite a few online unsavory people that would see this and not see a difference. Habeas corpus was almost this sort of fuck you revenge thing of with the body, where it is, when I think of something like Game of Thrones, sure, Jon Snow's there, but I'm gonna remember Tyrion more just because he sticks out, because he's shorter. And finally, we have Woman House, which is a really cool exhibit I wish I could have gotten to see, that kind of showed the domestic housewife life and how, through many different examples, the apron example was really cool when it was talking about the idea of gender could almost just be cast aside. But the way that women, to be a housewife, almost smash themselves into being a Barbie doll. One thing I thought about that seemed to be a sort of ever carrying, but it was especially in Woman House, the idea of the woman's beauty standard. And it's fascinating to me because Demi Moore is in probably the most contemporary and widely known, body horror take on the woman's beauty standard, which was The Substance. And even then, they still cast a very beautiful woman for it. Overall, I found a running theme through all these was the idea that aberration and separation from the straight white guy is seen as both a thing of intrigue and a thing of revulsion. How that masculine male gaze and look, the physique, how it dominates everything. How we just came out of a decade of gawking at a bunch of muscly white dudes in Marvel movies, but The moment the women get their own movies, they don't make any money. Oh, sure, they're beloved characters, don't get me wrong, but, was anybody going to go see The Wasp if Ant-Man wasn't there too? Now, I want to go back to the Jim Crow image because it's fascinating to me because habeas corpus had this really horrifying thing in it where they had pretty much taken the body, the Hottentot Venus, and how she was used as this vain, differentiating, making black women the other, and just how this really wasn't that long ago. This was 100 years ago. It's seen as this dark, ape-like, inhumane thing, but it's meant to represent just somebody like me and you. Much like the Hottentot Venus, these images are broken down into parts: the eyes, the ears, the lips, all of them just coming together to create this dehumanizing image of a black person. Something other, something commodified. Now, this is where we get a bit more personal, because honestly, from the outside, as of now, I would appear to be male, but I'm actually non-binary. And I kind of break the gender norm on things like that through my body, through my clothes. I like to wear baggy, clothes that hides my form. And every day I look and I want to be more thin and feminine. The body standards go for everybody. I think even at times where there's an attempt to be more inclusive, like I work at Target, there's an attempt to have, different body types, different skin colors and tones, but look at these people. They're still conventionally attractive, like they're trying, it's a vain attempt to get you to say, oh, look how progressive they're being, but honestly, they just want to trick you into spending more money. Once again, how can your disability, your abnormalness, how can that help with capitalism? Like, you're never gonna see, like, an Iraqi combat veteran missing all their limbs in, like, a Target ad. You're not gonna see somebody with burns or alopecia. You're just gonna see people that are slightly to be gawked at, said, hey, they look a bit like me, so I think I'll spend my money here. All in all, I sit between two worlds where I identify as neither side of the spectrum, yet I present outwardly due to home life, to culture, to life that I must be male presenting. And honestly, I just kind of hope the world would be more accepting of people that don't look like Target fashion models. Bye.